Hi, welcome everyone to the final installation of our Resilience and Mutual Support Speaker Series. If we don't know each other, my name is Laura. I'm one of the advocates for equity and justice for the core program at PCC. And we're very happy to be sharing space with you all today. A couple things, the meeting is being recorded, but it's going to be recorded on speaker view and edited so that your privacy can remain. So don't worry about being open and vulnerable if that's how you feel. Your faces, your thoughts will not be shared on the recording later. So before we begin, we'd like to humbly acknowledge the land that we are on, which is stolen land, and to recognize and acknowledge the indigenous people of the land our institution sits on, the Tongva. While a land acknowledgement is not enough, it is an important social justice and decolonial practice that promotes indigenous visibility and reminds us that we are settled on indigenous land. Let this remind us to contemplate how we can support decolonial and indigenous movements for sovereignty and self-determination, as well as continue to raise up the voices of all marginalized people. And with that, Anthony is going to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Anthony Francoso. I am the coordinator for CORE, Community Overcoming Recidivism Through Education, which is Pasadena City College's re-entry program. We aim to empower formerly incarcerated and system-impacted folks and allies. So I will be giving a brief introduction of Dr. J. I don't know if you can give a brief introduction of Dr. J. She's absolutely amazing. But I will read what we have, parts from the bio that we shared. So Dr. Harald Sims is the founder and chief executive officer of Kagler Interventions, Inc., an organization that serves families and communities using research and holistic methodologies, as well as training community stakeholders to ensure equity and equality in treatment. She is a holistic life coach at Holistically Speaking, Mind, Body, and Soul, and a well sought out mentor. She received her doctorate in human services with a specialization in family studies and intervention strategies. She is an adjunct speech professor at PCC, as well as Mount SAC and other colleges where she teaches in psychology, sociology, and communication. Dr. Harald Sims is a retired probation officer and an instructor for UC Davis's Center for Family-Focused Practice. She also trains probation departments, human service agencies, addiction professionals, social workers, and in-group homes in California. Dr. Harald Sims is a sex trafficking, cultural competency, and trauma subject matter expert. She is also co-producer and co-host for Beautiful Struggle on 90.7 KPFK, the co-host of 2 Melanated Minds on YouTube and Organic City Homesteaders, which she shares with her husband. It's an honor and a privilege to have Dr. J here with us today. I've seen how she maneuvers on campus, and I've seen how supportive she is of all of our students. Dr. J gives 1,000% to our student body, and she gives everything she can to be supportive of all of our students. And the support she gives that I've seen and that I've heard from students is absolutely phenomenal. All the students that are lucky enough to be working with Dr. J speak extremely highly of her. I've never really heard any students talk as highly about anybody as they do Dr. J. So it's an honor, it's a privilege to be walking alongside Dr. J, to be learning and to be sharing space. So, let's all give Dr. J a warm welcome. As we start this workshop. Thank you, Dr. J.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First, I cannot, in the African tradition, I need permission to speak from the eldest person in the room. Nobody wants to admit that, huh?
Anthony, I think you might be the eldest other than Dr. J.
behalf of Dr. Francoso, you can give it to me.
Okay, Dr. J, permission to speak.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you. This is the last of the series. I've been watching the series and it's been very wonderful. You've had some great speakers. And of course, I don't want to really repeat anything that you've already heard, but I had prepared a different type of webinar, but then in the last 72 hours, we had another change. And so today, I'm not going to give you a PowerPoint. I'm not going to have you do any work. This is some serious business that we need to tend to. So before I can do that, I would like to invite you all. I really love the dedication to the land because it is stolen. But I want to invite you all to experience libations, an African tradition. And our traditions are very much the same as the indigenous. So we are the highly melanated Aboriginal people. I want to pour libations on behalf of those whose lives have been stolen through colonization and through police brutality. We all know what's going on right now. So before I can get started, I know that we're all hurt and there are so many names that we don't know of. So I'm going to call a few names. I pour libations for Amadou Diallo. In the African tradition, we say Ase. That's like amen.
Ase.
Ase.
I pour libations for Sean Bell. Ashe.
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 I pour libations for Pedro Villanueva. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
I pour libations for Tamir Rice. Ashe.
Ashe.
I pour libations for Melissa Ventura. Ashe.
Ashe.
I pour libations for Sandra Bland. Ashe.
Ashe.
I pour libations for Philandro Castile. I pour libations for Trayvon Martin, for all those who have been shot down, unarmed through racism, police violence, and a belief in the system of white supremacy. Ashe.
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 I also want to add before I get started, I pour libations for Anthony Nunez. I pour libations for Eric Garner. I pour libations for Michael Brown. I pour libations for, just went blank. I just went blank. The brothers that have just murdered by police. Someone say their names.
George Floyd.
George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery. Ashe.
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 May they rest in Uhuru, which means may they rest in power, and all freedom fighters. Cochise, Che Guevara, Dr. Huey P. Newton, Fred Hampton, and all those have died for the struggle. It's a little emotional for me because I'm tired. And today we're going to talk about community and community rebuilding. And although I could do a workshop and we could do a lot of, busy work on what that looks like and what we need to do, but the main thing is I need to help you understand where I come from so that you can understand where you come from and what you have to offer. What is a community? A community is a place where you should feel safe. It's a place where your neighbors help raise you, the people on your block, the people around the corner. For me, growing up in Inglewood, the community was the ice cream man, the elders down the street, the kids we went to school with, where we all had a common language, a common way of walking, a common way of talking, a common belief. All those things are important, all the way down to the chilaquiles in the morning, because I had two families. I had my African American family and I had my Latino family. And so I was raised by both. This is why chilaquiles is one of my favorite breakfasts. And arroz con pollo, we have red beans and rice, you have arroz con pollo and gondolas. Chile verde, I don't eat pork, but chile verde with pollo. So I start with that to say that that was a place where I felt I belonged. That was a place where I felt safe. And sometimes in the community, a person will go through something and they'll make a mistake. And when they make that mistake, sometimes they end up in a place called incarceration. And when they end up in that place, they're supposed to do their time and they're supposed to come back to their community and they're supposed to come back better. But let me tell you a little something that I know personally. I've been on both sides of that coin. I know what it is like to be the person to put you there. And I know what it's like to be the person whose loved ones you have to fight for. And the one thing I want to make it very clear to you, I did not get involved in that because I want to lock people up and I want people to pay, and that's not why I got involved. I got involved because someone I loved got in trouble, and I asked for help before they got in trouble, and they refused to help. And I saw what they did to that person that I loved so much, and I saw the injustice because I saw somebody else do the same thing and go home. And the only way that I could fix it was to get in there. And I made a vow that anybody that came through me, I would stop them from going to prison. I have not once in my whole career, I'm retired, never once did I send anybody to prison. I sent them home or to college. That's what I did. And because I could not deal with the change and what was going on and everything that's going on now, I saw the attitudes, and that's why I had to get out.
Yes.
I had to get out. You see, I left my community. I moved away from my community, but I didn't leave my community. And so what happens is, I have a saying that people used to tease me about. I would say the only difference between them and us is we didn't get caught. That is the only difference. See, we have this problem in this country. It's called individualism. Now, our cultures, we have a lot more in common. We have so much in common that we don't even realize it. We should not be fighting and having problems with each other. We should be united. You know why we should be united? Because really, there's really no difference between us. The only difference is you know your language and I don't know mine. We have both been colonized. We know what that is, and we don't know what it truly is to be who we are. We don't even really truly know who we are. So a community helps you understand who you are. And a community is responsible for everyone in there. You see, when you make a mistake, when you get into trouble, that means the community didn't do what it was supposed to do. That means that that young person that was having problems at home, and you as the neighbor saw that that person was having problems, you had a responsibility to sit that child down and talk to them and say, what can I do to help you? Should I talk to your parents? Is there a program that we can create? See, they always say that our communities don't have, well, you guys lack resources. Of course we lack resources. It's by design. You see, slavery didn't end. It just changed faces. It's by design that we have more prisons than we have educational institutions. It's by design that we're not taught things like how to be an entrepreneur versus how to be an employee. It's by design that we're not taught about finances and relationships before we're even old enough to have one. All of that is by design. Our community doesn't even know who they are because by design, they have not been taught. And so you generally don't find out the truth until you get to college, and that depends on who teaches you. That depends on who you come across, because I have been told that I would never be college material. And because I was told that, I did everything in my power to make that person a liar. All of you are greater than what you could possibly know. You're greater than what you could possibly know. You left home for whatever reason. You left home. Someone I love very much, when they left home, I had a good friend of mine. He was an attorney from the Bronx, Puerto Rican from the Bronx, a Boricua. And he made a statement. He said, he's just going to college, it's just a different kind. And what he decides to do in that type of college will make him either a better person or it will break him. And I don't think it'll break him. And so some people went to the College of Hard Knocks, where they had to adjust to a whole different type of living. They had to adjust to being told what to do. They had to adjust to the horror of losing their humanity. There were hunger strikes. There were rebellions. There was tribalism and hatred, and that's how I see it. Frustration. And it's a world within itself with its own rules. It's not like there's no rules, there's no world. That's a world within itself. I have someone else that's very close to me that just finished doing 26 years and has just come home to a whole new world that they really have not prepared you for. And the sad thing about that is you get sent back to the community, but sometimes the community doesn't open its arms. Sometimes the community doesn't understand you paid the price. You paid. That bill is paid. And so what do? The bill is paid, but we still want you to pay. This is why incarceration, according to Dr. Angela Davis, it really doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't teach you to be a better person. There are some people in there that need to stay, but there's a lot of people in there that made a mistake, let them go home. We have a thing in African tradition, it's called Sankofa. That's to return. And in 2019, for African Americans, Africans in the diaspora, was a year of return. It marked 400 years. You see, because we were taught in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He discovered nothing. That's a lie we've been taught since kindergarten. He was a murderer, a rapist. He destroyed the peaceful indigenous First Nations people. But we were taught that this person was a hero. And so the whole indoctrination, and you want to know why we get in trouble, why we make mistakes, why we're so angry. It's because of the whole indoctrination, the whole systematic disruption of goodness and who we truly are. We're not allowed. We have not been allowed to be who God made us to be. We've only been allowed to fit the narrative that the media shows, that we're gangbangers and drug dealers and baby mamas and, you know, we don't take care of our children. This is the media narrative. And because we are human beings, symbolism is what we understand. Even if you are hearing impaired, you understand what you see. And these are the images that they show. So when you go away, whether you are incarcerated or whether you just moved from the community because you wanted a better life, when you return, you carry the weight of your people on your shoulders every single day. Anything that you do, they blame. If you make a mistake, all your people are like that. They don't look at the individual made the mistake, and they look at it, there's something wrong with all those people. There's nothing wrong. Right now, our communities are at war. There's no other way for me to describe it. I have seen the videos. We have talked and we have marched and we have done everything we possibly can to show we're human. When we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying only, we're saying too, but then that's begging. You are my brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter if we carry the same color. You are my brothers and sisters. I have something that I want to share with you. I kind of got ahead of myself, and that's because I've been up for 2 or 3 hours last night trying to process everything that is going on. Laura, would you please do us the honors?
This is called 10 Things You Sound Like When You Say All Lives Matter in response to Black Lives Matter. Or stop saying that stupid and sensitive ass shit. All right, so 1, your family pet goes missing. You post pictures of it all around your neighborhood. I come and post pictures of other people's missing pets from around the world on top of the picture of your missing pet. Well, because you ain't the only one missing a pet. 2, I show up to your grandmother's funeral and hands out my grandmother's obituaries. You ask why, because nigga, you ain't the only one that's missing a grandma. 4, I go into the hospital and change all of the intensive care unit signs to care unit signs, because every life in the hospital should be cared for just the same. What makes intensive care unit patients think that their lives matter more than the life of Jenny on the first floor fighting the cold? Codes can kill you too. 4, your fiance stands you up at the altar, and as you're crying, I get up and yell, millions of people get broken up with every day. Stop whining about it. 5, I show up to the Alcohol Anonymous meeting to get help for my cotton candy addiction. An addict is an addict. We all deserve help. 6, you say Kaylee Anthony. I say, what about her? We still don't know who killed little John Benet Ramsey. 7, I say Black Lives Matter. You say you don't see color. 8, I say Dallas. You say Blue Lives Matter. I say I thought you didn't see color. 9, it sounds like when I say Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter. 10, it sounds like when I say Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter. 10, it sounds like when we say Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter, it sounds racist, it sounds inhumane, it sounds like you trying to choke us with our own grief. It sounds like all lives matter, but when we say Rakia Boyd, Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Ayana Jones, Jessica Hernandez, Reese Walker, Kendrick Johnson, the people in fucking Flint, you say nothing.
I felt that poem was very relevant, and I want to share that with you. So we talked about leaving the community and coming back. I now want to talk about what you learn in that college of hard knocks and how you can bring that back to the community. There are some skills that you learn. You learn how to survive. You learn how to mind your own business. You may learn how to cook. You may learn some skills that on the outside you would have gotten paid a decent living wage to do, but instead they have you as a slave and they give you $2 a day for 10 to 12 hours worth of work. You learn how to be creative. Since you don't have access to the things on the outside, you create them on the inside. You have learned to be an entrepreneur. You have learned to make things out of nothing. You have learned patience. You have learned camaraderie. And you have learned what it is to lose and to want and to care. You've also learned how to channel your anger. Whether you realize it or not, there's nothing happy about a place like that. When you leave the community and you go to the suburbs, you may have left the community and all the helicopters and the gunshots and whatever else it is, and you go to the quietness of the suburbs and you think you can lose those feelings and that trauma that you experienced, but you don't lose it. What you do is you ignore it. And so because you haven't dealt with it, it comes out later on. The suburbs is not going to take the place of the pain, the generational trauma that you have experienced that goes way before you were ever even a thought in your parents' heart. The neighborhood, the community never leaves you. Now, if you have never lived in the community, if you've never lived in a hood, what is a community? There's different types of communities. There's so many different types. But if you've always been privileged, you've always had what you want. You've never had to deal with being stopped by the police. In fact, you never had to deal with being afraid because they're not going to bother you. You've never had to know what it's like to be hungry. You've never had to worry about, can I pay my rent? Am I going to be able to keep my job? Now, understand that privilege is not, people say, well, I'm not privileged, I grew up poor. That is not what I'm talking about. Privilege is oftentimes just the color of your skin. And you need to recognize that just walking in the door, you have a privilege as soon as you hit the door. But let me tell you the one thing that I saw last night before I went to sleep that I thought was beautiful. I saw them fighting in Minnesota, Prince's hometown. And I didn't see just Black people. I saw everybody. And while I don't agree with tearing up your town, I mean, Rodney King verdict, the first night, the very first night, I was there. I was on Western and Imperial. I was there when it went down. I could not even get to the freeway to get back to Riverside because they shut down the freeways. I could not get to Inglewood to my grandmother's house because they wouldn't allow me. I was stuck out there. I was 4 months pregnant, stuck out there. The first night, it was hot. It was so hot, I thought the windows in my car were gonna melt. And that was the first time I saw Crips and Bloods, Black and brown, together. They weren't fighting, they weren't trying to kill each other. They were righteously angry. They had their fists up in the air, and it overwhelmed me to the point that when it was done, and radio station 90.7 KPFK had a program called Youth Visions, and they gave me this recorder, and the Nation of Islam walked me into the projects so that I could tell the world, this is how the people feel. I will never forget that experience. All these experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, are experiences that you can bring back to your community. No matter what you've done, if you've learned from it, even if you were innocent, because we know in California, we had the 3 strikes law and we incarcerated people. The Andres case, he stole some videos from Kmart and got life. We know that our criminal justice system is not equitable, and we know there's no equality. We know there's no fairness. We know the bail system is predatory. And by the way, I'm not an attorney and I'm not giving legal advice, but the Humphrey motion that came out last, I believe, May 2019, where they can no longer charge all this horrible high bail for something small, and the judges are fighting it still. What that does, it hurts poor people who may be innocent but can't even afford to get out, because you can fight your case better on the outside than you can the inside. People are inside prison for 2 years still fighting their case, and they haven't even been convicted of the crime yet. So I may be saying a lot of things because my heart, my spirit, my ancestors are speaking through me to you. Because there have been communities on top of communities on top of communities, and the only way we have survived all these years is because we had a community to back us, a community to console us, a community to wrap their arms around us, to teach us, to support us. But what has happened in the last 25 years is our communities are being dismantled. We don't know our neighbors. We stay to ourselves. We have moved out and we are spread out. And if we need to get together, we have to get on the freeway. Our communities are being dismantled. We have to go back to the old ways. Now, I will tell you, I'm old school. I know I'm probably one of the oldest people on this. I'm old school. I believe in the old ways. I believe in respecting the elders. I believe in, making sure that the children are safe. And if my child is down the street cursing, I expect you to tell me, and I'm going to take care of that rather than tell you, don't tell me nothing about my kid. We need to stop that. Gangs, parents are working 12, 16 hours a day and the kids are raising themselves. But if the community was what it was, we're going to always have gangs. That's tribalism. But it wouldn't be like it is. Why? Because while you're at work, the neighbors have their eye on your kids. They know if kids aren't supposed to be at your house. They know if your kid just jumped in the car. They can tell you. We need to go back to that. You are home. Anyone who has left home for any reason and returned, and it's different, and it's been gentrified, and you're made to feel unwelcomed in your own space. And people are afraid to have you live with them because of what will the neighbors think. You have to come home with a different mindset. You have to change. Nobody can change you but you. You have to understand that you paid your debt to society. And that mentality of us versus them, leave it. We are all in this boat together. We are all struggling. We all want education for our children. We want food in our mouths. We want a roof over our head. We should not have homeless like this. Nobody should be homeless. We have so many problems that we have to rebuild. We have to rebuild our community. What does that entail? It means that whatever skills you have to bring them back. If you just did 15 years in the state pen or the federal pen, your job, should you choose to accept it, is to talk to those youth who are going the wrong way or who are already there and explain to them there is no honor in being in that place. You just came from there and turned them another way. There's no reason why anyone should come home and business as usual. You have a responsibility to make sure no one else ends up having the story that you have. See, the story that you live and have created, everyone has one. But your story is not for you. Everything that you've gone through in life, and trust me, I've gone through a lot, it's not for me. I realized that everything I went through, every tear that I shed, every time I cried, every time I wanted to give up, I realized that I had to take that same energy and I had to fight for somebody else so no one would cry as much as I did. There was a young man. He did a home invasion. It wasn't this big coming in with guns and all that. It was an old man. They knocked on the door. They went in the house. They stole a car. Well, of course, when you get in trouble, they, maybe it's a petty theft, but they're going to jack it up to a robbery because that way they can get you, more time and let the attorneys dumb you down because you can't afford a real attorney. So you're going to get the public defender. That young man, they were trying to send him at the time. We didn't have DJJ, it was California Youth Authority. They told me he needs to go to the California Youth Authority. You're going to have to send him. This boy had never been in trouble before. While he was incarcerated, his mother had a brain aneurysm. And I did something that a lot of people didn't agree with. But I went to my higher ups and I said, his mother may not make it. I want to take him out of the juvenile hall and I want to take him to see his mother. And oh, you don't do that and you shouldn't do that. And he did a home invasion and blah, 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 blah. I said, if we leave him in there and his mother passes, we have destroyed his life. He made a mistake. Long story short, I got what I wanted. I took him out of the juvenile hall and I took him to the hospital to see his mother. And all these other officers I said, no, myself and the one other officer that I knew, we were on the same page. We're people of color. I didn't want somebody who's a racist in the room with him in a moment like that. So we went in the room with him and let him speak to his mother. She couldn't. The hearing is the last thing to go. He cried. I wiped his eyes. I let him have his time with his mom. And then we took him back. 2 days after that, she passed away. That family was so grateful that he got to do that. I did not send that boy to YA. I went to court and I told the judge what happened. And I said, this child is hurting. Let's send him to placement. He went to placement for 6 months and he went home. Now, it doesn't mean I don't care about the victim, but how are we making things right here? He's able to go back to his community. He's learned his lesson. Now, that doesn't always happen. I'm going to admit that. But we make mistakes. The frontal lobe, see that reasoning part, that logic part of our brain is not fully developed to the age of 24. And so we make mistakes. And even as adults, sometimes out of desperation, sometimes out of anger, sometimes out of hurt, we make mistakes. Most of the time, I would say it's a mental health issue because we're not seeking mental help. We're not, culturally, we don't want to talk to a therapist. Culturally, if we talk to a therapist, our culture says, oh, you're crazy if you do that. Or if you talk to a therapist and that therapist does not look like you and is not culturally competent, that therapist, what do they want to do? Put you on medication. I don't believe in that. There are some DSM-5 diagnoses that need medication, not all of them. If you're feeling anxious, you don't have to go take some pills. You need to meditate. You need to change your diet. There's things that you can do. You need to breathe deep, smudge your house, get all that negative energy out of your home. There's things that you can do. What you bring back to the community are your experiences. the things that you've done and been through. You're able to see what no one else can see. Why? Because you have been in fight or flight mode so long, you recognize the threat when it's coming before it gets there. That's something that you give. We have to raise our children to know who they are. You are in college. When you're in, brothers locked up, they get books and they get, why are we getting locked up and learning who we are in prison instead of learning who we are in school, in elementary school? When you know who you are, when you know about Geronimo, when you know about Cochise, when you know, oh God, there's so many tribes. I have Chiricahua blood. When you know who you are, I climbed Chichen Itza twice. When you can recognize the brilliance of who you are, your history did not start with Europe or Greece or the beginning, 1776. Your history is ancient from the beginning of man. The problem is we have allowed people with small minds to divide us and make us think that we are subservient when we are kings and queens. We are the head, we are not the tail. If you make a mistake, it doesn't take your crown away. It just means you had to learn a lesson, make penance, and come back to your community. We need to do community work. If you can't find a job, create a job. Create a nonprofit. Maybe you're not allowed to be around children because of your background, but you can hire someone or get someone who's in college who needs an internship to do what you cannot do. And you can run that thing. And when I was coming up, we had Manpower and the CETA program and all these programs for our youth that they took away. We cannot depend on the government to give us what we need. We must create it ourselves. Every person, no matter where you've been, you have to know where you're going. See, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. We don't have money, we need to barter. We need to learn to barter. I do gardening. I grow my husband and I, we're growing our own food. We see what's coming. What's coming is a food shortage. What's coming is a vaccine. And what do you have to do to get that vaccine? That's a whole nother level. Because if they knock on my door, excuse me, ma'am, come with me, you're talking too much. Oh, well, if I have crops and I have food and you need some plumbing done in your house, and somebody's a plumber, somebody knows how to grow food. Neither one of us have money, we barter. I can give you these groceries if you can fix my plumbing. I can work on cars. I'll fix your car if you can tutor my daughter. We have to learn to barter. We have to learn there is no black, brown, white, yellow, green. Forget all that. There's one race, the human race. Friedrich von Blumenbach and Carl Linnaeus in the early 1700s created that classification of race. Before that, there was no classification of race. It was your tribe, it was your people. It wasn't like that. We are believing and living a lie. We should be, in our tradition, be able to break bread together and come up with solutions together and help each other together. Right now, there's a war going on out there. And how are we going to deal with that war? We can't get out in the street and destroy the community. I mean, sometimes there's casualties of war and that's what has to happen. But after all that is said and done, what do we have left? We need a meeting of the spirit and a meeting of the minds. Our communities need to welcome us back. Yes, I live completely long ways from my community, but you know what I do? I spend my money in my community. I make a monthly trip back to Inglewood and I spend my money there. Because as far as I'm concerned, they have plenty of money right here. You don't need my money. I pay taxes here. That's all you're going to get. I go back and spend my money in the community. And that's what we have to do. Regardless of how you leave, we must go back to community. We must create for community. We must take a part of us and give that to the community. Because without that, we must go back to being collectivist people. This individualism is not, that might be their American, but that's not our way. That's not our way. If you're hungry, I'll feed you. If you don't have a ride and I have a car and it's important that you get there, I'll get you there. It doesn't mean take advantage of people. It means if you honor your community members like they're supposed to honor you, you won't bring that mess here. That means that when you have people that come into your community like a force and start disrespecting your community members, that means you as a community get up and go to that city council meeting or wherever you need to go and let them know it will not be tolerated, or we will vote you out. There's many things that we can do. I used to go to the sweat lodges. I used to be a part of Mecha at Mount Sat. There's many things that we can do. But if we don't come together as a community and rebuild it, that means if the schools are failing, we need to advocate for our schools, or we need to create homeschool cells. If there's a lack of food, we all need to start growing little gardens in our backyards and bartering the food, or teaching others how to plant food. And if there's a lack of clothing, then those who know how to sew need to get together and sew these clothing, or teach our young people. We used to have home ec. We need to teach them how to create. Somebody knows how to build a car from the ground up. Maybe each person go and get a piece from the junkyard and bring it so that they can build that. If somebody needs a job, you cannot tell me that because somebody did some time that they're not worthy of having a job. Because don't employers understand that when people work, crime goes down? I want to ask each and every one of you, any biases that you have, any prejudices that you have, ask yourself where it came from. And how is that serving you? How's that working for you? How is hating somebody or not liking a group, how's that working for you? Because at the end of the day, even if you worship a head of lettuce, you're going to answer to somebody. And I personally am a person that I don't believe in waiting until I die for somebody to straighten it out. I believe each and every one of our lives are here for a reason. We have a purpose, and we need to meet that purpose while we're here. I'm not going to wait for justice. I'm going to demand it while I'm here. All power to the people. Any questions, comments? We've got 30 minutes. Let's have a conversation. I want to answer your questions. I know my spirit and my heart is talking, but it needed to be said because you've had these great speakers and they covered a lot, but I'm the last one. And so I want to put it all in a package, and I want to leave you with something to think about and sleep on. I want to leave you with a call to action. Holla at your girl. Yes.
So recently I let go of 3 resentments, and this last part you mentioned about hating someone, how was that serving me? So I learned that holding on to these resentments, it was like blocking me from connecting to other people with other people. You know, like I wasn't being like spiritual at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that negative energy, it was renting space in my head.
Yes.
So usually it's like, you know, it's just like, I guess, yeah, it's a resentment. It's just poison. So it was like a blockage for me connecting with others. So I had to like let it go to be able to be spiritual and like not be so much like stuck on my petty rivalry, like hatred, so that I could be able to connect with others. And it's been working fine. I find like my true self is coming out.
You know, that forgiveness, you know, I understand when people say, I forgive this person for taking this person's life. I forgive this and I forgive that. And that takes a lot because I'm not there's some things that I really have to work on. I'm not going to be quick to forgive, but I'll tell you this, it is like a cancer. And eventually, time heals all wounds. That's what they say. I hope that's really true. But the fact that you were able to do that shows how your growth. It shows your growth. And when you can grow like that, and you can let go of those resentments, your health improves. Now I'm gonna go holistic on you for a minute. Right now we got, I call it the Rona, the COVID-19, the Rona, and the Rona attacks you because your immune system is poor, it's low. They keep showing African Americans as the face of the coronavirus, but what they're not saying is that the Latino community is also suffering just as much. And you know why our community suffers so much? Besides the inequity of the health system, besides that, we hold so much trauma in our bodies that it affects us. See, we don't have the luxury of not being angry. We don't have the luxury of thinking everything's fine and walking around, you know, everything's great. You know, we don't have that luxury. We have so much pain and we're not able to tap into that pain and deal with it. We don't know how to get help. So the fact that you chose to let go, you just healed, you're healing your body.
Yeah. I went from severe to mild, DSM-5. Yup, that CBT-MI. I'm doing that therapy on myself.
That's right.
Yup.
Self-healing. There's things that we can do. We don't always, I mean, people go to therapists. I'm a coach. So the difference between a therapist and a coach is I don't diagnose at all. I just help you heal yourself.
Yeah.
Truly. And if I can't do it, then maybe you need a therapist. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Eventually I'll get there. Like I'll learn to like just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Like I let it go, but it doesn't mean that I like forgive them completely. See, yeah, it's a process. Eventually, it's gonna get there to the point where I forgive like completely. Because even though I let go of the resentment, like the bad mojo, juju, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it's just trauma. Like I can't forget it. I forget, but I don't forget.
You will never forget. You
Yeah.
will never ever forget. And it's going to take a long time to forgive. Some things I've been through, it took me about 7 years to forgive that person.
It's gonna take a divine intervention.
Yeah. Sometimes it's going to take a divine intervention.
It's gonna take a divine intervention.
I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to, I'm not going to kiss, I'm not going to hand you a Bible and then hug you. I'm sorry, that ain't going to happen here. Never happened here. But in time, you know, we have so much stuff that we have to sort out. Keep working on it.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to say something with what happened to George. I feel so much fucking rage right now. I am like, I haven't stopped crying since I saw that video. I have 2 boys. And honestly, like, I feel like that fucking cop deserves to die the same way he fucking killed George. And I fear for my boys. You know? It's like, how do you deal with this rage? Because if I didn't have kids, not that I want to loot the community, but fuck the police station. Like, I'm just so fucking pissed. Like, people want you to be silent, peaceful. Where has that gotten us? We try to heal from one victim to another victim to another victim, and then something else happens. Like, there's no time to heal. How do you let this shit go? How?
I'm gonna be
It
honest.
just feels like it's more accepting. Yeah, they go to trial and they just fucking let go. Why haven't they arrested? But
Your pain, Queen, I understand. I have sons. And I fear, I have a grandson, and I have a husband. And I understand how you feel. I couldn't even sleep last night. That's why we're doing this webinar this way, because I can't do it the way I was going to do it, because I have to address this. Because you know what angers me is sometimes I sit back. I never wanted to get in law enforcement. I hated the police. My dad was a cop. I liked my dad, but I hated the police. I never wanted to get involved. Had that not happened to someone, I sat there in court and I'm crying, and the deputy told me to shut up. I'm crying, and you're telling me to shut up, and you're in my face like you want to hurt me because I'm crying because you're giving a prison sentence to a kid? And I was so angry. And every time I went to visit that person, I would just talk to the other kids and tell them this ain't the way to go. And the COs would say, you know what, you need to work here. And I thought about it and I applied. And they do not like me. They don't like me. They don't like me because I didn't do it. They got all these arrests to brag about. I think I only did 5 arrests in my whole career, because I didn't come for that. And you know what I'm proud of? I have mentored some people who are doing the same thing right now. They fighting for us in there. And when each one retires, I'm scared. Did you raise up another one to fight for us? You cannot leave until you raise up 2 more to fight for us, to put the ones there in their place. When Chris Dorner, I was at work that day that Dorner was burnt alive. I was at work. That was my county. And they were cheering it on. And I said, I gotta go home. I cannot sit there and hear them cheer that on. That man had a lot of dirt. When you know what's going on, they come for you. Our children should not have to be told how to act with the police. We should not have to worry about the police being on campus with our children. They have deputies and probation officers on school campuses. I did 7 years on the school campus. Gang members ran to me, not from me. I did 7 years. I was supposed to do 2. I did 7 years because when I got ready to go, the kids told me, don't leave us. If you leave us, we're gonna get hurt. Don't leave us. Who's gonna look out for us if you leave? I cried, uniform and all. I sat there and cried. I said, you know what? I told my sergeant, leave me here. You can't stay, your 2 years is up. Leave me here. And I had the school district advocate to keep me there. I stayed 7 years. And if I had not been there those 7 years, the gang unit, you have to advocate for your sons, and your community have to advocate for your sons. And it's not just your sons, they're killing our daughters. They're killing our elders. They just beat up a 67-year-old woman. They don't care. We have to care. I'm angry too. I'm very, very angry. My whole household is angry. And that anger is a righteous anger, and it's not going to ever go away. You know why? It's not going to go away until something is done. We have to do something as a collective community. We have to do something. We can't just rise up and, oh, this is our time, be on our side, and then when something happens to the other group, you're quiet. You're silent. Where are all those people that's right with us? We need your help. Where are you now? We need your help. This doesn't just affect one group, it's affecting everybody. I understand your anger. Take your anger and turn it into a program. Turn it into a program so that you can teach these other kids what that's like, and there's no honor in being behind those bars. Teach them there's no honor, and when the police come, this is what you do. Please, everybody, teach your children when the police question them, I need my parent or my lawyer. Don't talk. Because they'll talk to your kid without you, with no representation. I want my parent or an attorney. You got to make them understand that we must say that. Don't talk to them. Once you lawyer up, that's the end of the conversation. I don't talk to cops. I don't care what they do. Do not talk.
I think that's where we're wrong. We have to talk.
That's where we're wrong?
Yeah, I think that's where we have to talk. As myself, seeing the video of George, I see myself in him. The only difference is that I didn't get killed. You know, in those moments, you're fearing that your mouth will be placed on the corner of a curve, on the edge of a curve. The difference is that I didn't get caught. I walked up to the scene to help my friend without any abrupt movement or any form of ultimately trying not to startle any officer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know your rights and you tell them what they can't do,
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna do it regardless. So you might as well speak up.
Mm-hmm.
But in those moments, that's when they slam your ass on the floor. That's when they kneel on your neck. That's when they kneel on your upper back. Multiple officers. I don't believe in silence. That's the problem. We have been told to shut up. We are told not to talk back. Yeah, I didn't know these things until I got to college. And that's when we learn it. I think the problem is that no one's out there trying to change the curriculum in elementary school, in middle school, in high school. All that bullshit my Black professors taught me was a form of assimilation. Or maybe they're just worried about their 9 to 5. They've got a family to raise. So why not just teach this fake ass information? I think the problem is that the people of my community talk shit to themselves when they get the jury call. When you have to go to jury duty, people are already trying to figure out how to get the fuck out of that.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even showed up to the court. Why? That's the problem. The people will not do their civil duty to deliberate my liberation. And despite perjury being committed in front of you, despite them approaching you, look at the video. George was pulled over. There's no lights on that vehicle. The MVARs aren't running. There's loopholes to all this shit. You've mentioned it already. I think you nailed it in the beginning. I heard enough in the beginning when you said it's by design. It's working exactly as designed. I truly don't believe we can do anything unless we have another party. We have a revolution. And that's just my 2 cents.
You know what? I respect your 2 cents. And when I talk about don't talk, any civil rights attorney will tell you when they start trying to ask you questions, you know, well, when did you do this, or blah, 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 you don't have to give them that information. I understand what you're saying. George, and I don't want to hear, but I was told he asked for his mother in his last breaths. This guy had his knee on his neck and his hands in his pockets like it was nothing for 9 minutes. The other cops stood around and did nothing, didn't stop him, didn't say, get up. People are screaming, hollering, you're killing him. He didn't care. Let me tell you what I know. The time for us to speak is in the voting booths, is in the council chambers of the city. We've been marching for 400 years. That ain't done nothing for us, has it? Not really. The revolution is going to happen. But the revolution is going to require, as Gil Scott-Heron said, the revolution will not be televised. It'll be televised. But we can't fight unless we unify. We can't sit there and be silent. This young Latino boy that was murdered Tuesday night, I don't know the particulars. I don't know what he supposedly did. I heard what his brother said, that he had put the gun down and he was already on the ground, and then they shot him 5 more times. That pissed me off. He's 18 years old. If we keep fighting each other, we're not going to get anywhere. We have to unify, and we have to force them to do the right thing. Remember, these people keep talking about, there are people that are marching with their guns and their AR-15s saying we're being oppressed. They don't know a damn thing about oppression. They're not oppressed. They're just mad because they got to wear a mask and they can't go to the golf course. We live this every day. Yes, we need to speak, but when you're in a situation and they're there and they're looking at you, I'm telling you from experience from the other side, I'm not telling you to sit there and be a punk. I'm telling you, they will try to get you to say things to use against you. Use your rights, use your Fifth Amendment. I want an attorney. It stops right there. People are so afraid that they talk and they're talking too much, and next thing you know, we got the Central Park 5 all over again. If they don't need to know, you don't tell them. I hope every last one of you always make sure that your phone is fully charged. And if you see somebody in trouble, stand back. I don't want trauma porn, but these murderers would not be called out if somebody didn't have the proof. They got the proof, they have the camera. They don't want you to know about it. But when we have the proof and it gets to the news, now they got to answer. And the sad part about them answering is, like Zimmerman, when you talked about jury duty, you are 100% correct. Nobody wants to go to jury duty. So there is no jury of our peers. It is the jury of their peers. We need to go to jury duty. We need to be the ones sitting on those benches and helping to decide what happens to those people. And people don't want to go to trial because it costs a lot of money. I will tell you, 80% of the cases are pled out. They're pled out. I know this because I used to write the pre-sentencing investigations. By the time the case would come to me, they've already taken a deal. Even if I think, no, send them home, they've already taken the deal. This is how the system doesn't work. So brother, I hear you. But in order for us to protect ourselves, especially our children, because they come after our children, teach your children not to talk. Ask for the parent, ask for an attorney. Don't say nothing else. If they're under 12, they have to Gladys R that child. If that child is under 12 and there's no Gladys R, cha-ching. I'm telling you this from experience. Thank you, brother, for saying what you had to say.
Can I say something, Dr.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have a question. So throughout the media, what I'm seeing, especially in Minneapolis, like we're starting riots, and it kind of brings back to the LA riots. And I was wondering, as like a young youth, what can the youth do? Because I know a couple of my friends have started movements to like acknowledge the police brutality, especially in Pasadena. Because it kind of hits home for me because my cousin, he was murdered by Pasadena PD. And I'm trying not to cry right now because I see everybody crying, but I'm trying to hold it in because it hurts. it honestly hurts, and it honestly hits home to see another innocent Black life being taken away from, especially in our community. So I was just wondering, like, what can we do? Because I know peaceful protest is not working, even though our Black leaders, they want us to peacefully protest so we don't end up getting hurt, but it seems like it's not working. So like, is there another solution for the media to hear us besides starting a riot or in other cases, looting big businesses?
I regret to say, but I have to be honest, I don't have a whole lot of faith in our leaders. Because people get bought and paid for. People are bought and paid for. I don't have a whole lot of, I think we all should be leaders. I think that if you're 18 years old, you're old enough to vote. And a vote really means more in your community than it does with the sitting, whatever you call that, in the White House. Vote, organize, come up with programs, talk to your neighbors, attend city council meetings. We elect the DA who does not prosecute the cops. We know her name. We put these people in place by our votes. We need to be informed voters. Now, those who cannot vote, if you've been to prison, the parole agent was supposed to tell you that after you're off parole, you can get your voting rights back. Oftentimes they don't tell you that, but you can. You've served your time. In this state, you can get your voting rights back. So we need to organize, and we need to, get together with other groups, and we need to sit down and come up with ways to protect our community. We need to hold accountable. Right now on social media, colorofchange.org is sending, they have a petition out asking that all 4 cops are arrested and indicted. Not indicted isn't good enough. They need to do time. We need social change. I will say one of the things, that someone has mentioned, and I agree, when you see a video of someone being murdered, please don't keep sharing that. That is causing so much trauma. Don't keep sharing it, because it's trauma porn. I don't want to see anybody else die. I don't want to see them take their last breath. And once we know that it has happened and there's proof, we don't need to keep, putting it on Instagram and putting it on Facebook. Let's stop. Let's stop doing that. We're going to have a revolution. Whether it's a physical revolution, a mental revolution, a spiritual revolution, honestly, it's going to have to be on all fronts. It's going to have to be. And
I wanted to say something really quick. Sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for your perspective, because we have such a tainted image of law enforcement. And so to see the small percentage, whatever that may be, of law enforcement that is for the people and that gives people chances and takes kids out of possibly going to youth authority, which is like gladiator school, basically. I just thank you for that. I thank you for standing with us and for showing us a different face. And so I know that a big percentage of cops are bad, but I also know there's a small percentage that's good. And I thank you for showing your face. And I would hope that we can find more law enforcement like you to stand in true solidarity with us, not just a facade, not just for politics, but for a real movement. And so again, I thank you, Dr. J. We really appreciate you, because we can't do it without building bridges. We can't be like Donald Trump and break and put walls. We have to be smart about the way we come at this. And so thank you once again.
You're welcome. If you get in it, people say they want to get into it to help people. That's really not what they get in it for. But I can assure you, there are about 8 that when I retired, there are 8 more. Two of them just retired. One of them's leaving in 2 years, and they're doing the work. They're doing the work. So, and I can tell you, most of them are not, but the good ones don't get anywhere. Now here's the thing. If you keep your mouth shut and you see this happening, you are not one of the good ones. You're part of the problem. The culture is such that when you buck it, they make you pay for it. If you haven't prepared to do something else with your life, and this is all you have, then you have a choice to make. I made my choice. I said, I'm getting the hell out of here. And I went back and got my master's, got my doctorate. And my last 6 months, they really came for me. They really did. And you know what? I said, bring it, because they didn't know I was getting ready to retire. I retired on 9/11 for a reason, 2015, to make a point. And guess what? They knew I was on, they knew what side I was on the whole time. They figured it out after year 5. So there are people like me. We don't know who they are. And a lot of them might be afraid to show who they are. But the ones that I left, they're not afraid to show who they are. You're going to see a change, but there's going to be a cost. I've already paid the price. I want to make sure none of you have to continue to pay.
Maybe as we move forward, I think it would be great if we could have another discussion and possibly training on how to talk to the police and when to talk to the police, right? Like if we get pulled over by the police, what would be the best kind of protocol in acting and reacting towards them, right? And when would be a good time to be more resistant, and when would be a good time to just answer questions and be like, not answer questions, but I'm not going to answer anything about my lawyer or my parent, right? Maybe we need a training on something like that and in the future. And I think also one of the comments here was, the idea of good cops and bad cops. As we move forward too, maybe we should start talking more about prison abolition and abolition of police as true forms of liberation, right? Because can we really reform the systems that are overarching and oppressing each and every one of us? Do we want to attempt to reform, or do we want to attempt to abolish and develop something new? So yeah, as thinking for the future, these are the kind of 2 thoughts that came into my head.
Well, I think that, I'm looking at what's being written, and it is 100% true. Policing started with the slave patrols. And something has to change, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but we got to fight the power at any cost. And I'm not saying destroy the community. Actually, the things that are being destroyed, we don't even own. But in a war, there's casualties, and that's all I can say about that. What I do want to end with is, I want you to know that I hurt too. We all hurt. And it's got to stop. And right now with the virus, we got 2 viruses going on. We have the virus of racism and hatred, and we have the coronavirus hitting us at the same time. And the other virus has always been here. And the only way we're going to get an inoculation for that virus is unity and rebuilding our own communities. Let's not ask anybody to help us. Let's help ourselves. And let's love each other, and let's get rid of our differences and our biases, and let's come together as human beings in solidarity.
Thank you, Dr. J. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for being here. And as always, our advocates for equity and justice from the CORE program are here for you if this conversation has brought up feelings or sparked any kind of further conversation that is needed, or resources. Please reach out to us. I will put our email address in the chat and our social media. You can contact any way that you want to, but we are always here for you. And we're so grateful to you, Dr. J, for being a part of our community and being there for our core students and the entire PCC community. This workshop was really powerful for me. It was a lot of things that I needed to hear just in the right way. So thank you.
You're welcome. Asante
Hey,
sana.
definitely. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's thank you. And karibuni sana is you're very welcome in Swahili.
Thank you, Dr. J. I think this is a really great way to finish off the workshop series. Yeah, a lot of the things you said, I was like crying the whole time and had chills and goosebumps the whole time. I mean, what you were saying really hit hard. And it kind of, emphasizes the importance of community work and the fact that all of us need to continue putting in work to make this community what we need it to be, and the necessity for moving forward, finding balance, and doing everything we can to make this world a better place. I mean, that's kind of what I'm leaving here from the talk that you gave, and I really, really appreciate that message that you've given us, and the love and the energy that you continue to give us. Thank you, Dr. J.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dr. J, are you on social media so folks can
I am. I have an Instagram. It's Dr. J Sims. You'll see my face. Also, is Holistically Speaking, Mind, Body, and Soul on Instagram. I have on YouTube 2 Melanated Minds. And I have also, if you want to learn how to grow your own food and fix your car and work on your house, we have Organic City Homesteaders on YouTube. So I'm doing what I can do, with the Rona going on.
and the second Melanated Mind, is that Penny Wilson, or is that somebody else?
Penny and I are actually getting ready to start something else on YouTube. Or Zoom. So we're working on something. We're talking about it now. It'll be in the works. We'll let you know about it.
Perfect.
Also, we may come back to 90.7 KPFK, Beautiful Struggle FM. Hopefully, when they get everything under wraps, we can get back in the studio and you guys call in and share with us.
Right on. And Beautiful Struggle is on Tuesdays at 7, correct?
7 p.m. 7 to 8 p.m.
90.7 on your FM dial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Comment on thank you, Dr. Sims, for inviting me, and thank you guys for talking about this. And I am grateful for all the great voices and the vulnerability of everyone who was able to touch in. I appreciate it, and I just thank everyone for letting. Sorry, I just hope everyone is able to do more collaborative things like this in the future. So that's my thing.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
If any of you are formerly incarcerated and or system impacted, system impaction means that you have a family member that has been incarcerated at some point in their lives, please reach out to us at CORE. Our program here is to advocate and to empower. So definitely reach out to us, and we will be there to support you. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. J.
Thank you.
This is really great.
Peace and blessings, and be well.
If there's any ways that we can support you, please let us know as well. Because I know you've reached out and offered support to CORE a ton, and we want to definitely build connections, and we want to offer our support in any way that you potentially may need us as well.
Well, I would like to, I had a probation to work program, and I would like to kind of have that going on in the Pasadena area so that people can get, gainfully employed or learn to create their own businesses. So that's something I'd like to look at.
Dope. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool.
Love you guys.
Thank you so much.